Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we need to remember something very important. What is happening out in the economy, what's happening out in the mainstream media with government, with all these statistical numbers, this is an illusion. And both sides right now, they're playing up this illusion, of course, for their own agenda. But behind the scenes, what's really happening in the real economy, the people's economy, it's just falling apart. And we've been following retail, we've been following housing, we've been following all of this, and we've been seeing it break down every step of the way. Now, we've been detailing and showing how retail is completely falling apart, and we were saying that retail was falling apart way before it started to fall apart, because back when Obama was president, we were looking at retail, and each holiday season was getting worse and worse and worse. And all of a sudden, stores started to close, and we heard of bankruptcies. And all of a sudden, they called it the retail apocalypse. But this is what happens when you continually follow it. You know it just didn't happen overnight. You know that everything that we looked at led up to that point. And now we see more and more stores closing. They're expecting 3,800 stores to close across the country this year. And we know, Kmart, Macy's, Sears, JCPenney, Best Buy, Payless, and the rest, they're deciding to close more and more of these stores. Now, remember, these stores do have an online presence. It's not like, oh, wow, we don't have anything online. You can't purchase anything online. Many of these stores, you're able to purchase and go right to the store and pick it up. You don't even have to wait for it to be shipped to your house. Or you can have it shipped to your house free of charge. So what we're seeing here is that people, they just don't have the funds to go out and purchase the goods. Now, there's a new report which was released by a real estate research firm, Reis, and it noticed that shopping malls had not been this empty since 2012. The vacancy rate at regional and super regional malls in the U.S. reached 8.6% in the second quarter of 2018, up from 8.4% in the prior quarter. And they listed, all the stores that are shut down. And some of the biggest retailers, about 57 of them, they closed their stores. And we know it's Abercrombie and Fitch closed a lot of stores, Aeropostale, Aerosols, American Apparel, American Eagle, Ann Taylor, the Banana Republic, Barnes & Noble, BCBG, BB, and the list goes on and on and on. But what we're getting out of this is that there are still more stores that are going to close. This is what happens when people don't have full-time jobs, when people are making a lot less money, wages are declining. When we're at the end of a central banking system, we start to see all this start to break down. And we started to see this breakdown right after 2008, when everything collapsed, which at that point, everything should have just continually collapsed, and we should have had a new system at that time. Hopefully not a central bank system, but we needed the central bank system to go away. They propped it up. They propped it up for many more years. And now we see many countries moving away from the dollar, dumping treasuries, creating the same thing that we have here in the West, the trading systems, the gold exchange systems, payment systems. A lot of countries have been ramping up on gold purchases, dumping their treasuries, and Russia has been in the forefront doing all of this. They've been liquidating virtually all of their U.S. Treasury holdings. And the question is, why are they doing this? Well, Finance Minister Anton Siluanov said that Russia's aim is to keep reducing its investment in American securities. The U.S. dollar is becoming an unreliable tool for payments in international trade. And we'd like to get out of the dollar completely. We're going to see this happen with many more countries because they're starting to realize that this central bank dollar, remember, this is not the American people's dollar. This is the central bank's dollar. It's an instrument of debt. It's not something that's hooked to the people. It was forced upon us by the central banking system. And we're starting to see countries start to realize that it's time to move away from it because they know exactly what's going to happen. They know that the dollar is going to collapse. And we know that it's Trump's plan and the Patriots' plan to remove this country from the central bank system. Now, I think this is going to go much further than just this country. I think China, Russia, and many of the other countries, they're getting ready to move away from the central bank. We already heard from Rothschild where they're saying that Trump and the Patriots, they're ruining their new world order, their new world government, their currency system. And countries and people, they're all starting to wake up and they're starting to realize what has been happening over the many, many years. Now, we know that Trump needs to fill the positions in the Fed. He's going to fill these positions with people that will report directly back to him. We know the Dodd-Frank Act of 2010 increased the Fed's power by giving it sweeping authority to regulate the banking industry. The Fed began to penalize banks that disobeyed its new rules, including determining which loans were desirable to approve and which weren't, along with dictating how much banks could pay out for investors' dividends. And this is all about to change. And we know from Trump coming out and letting everyone realize that the Fed is doing things like raising rates. We have debt coming due. But again, it's up to the Fed. And we need to remember that the Fed is a leader in pushing stringent regulation on the nation. They're raising interest rates. They're stopping growth in the money supply. The Fed is standing in the way of further growth in the American economy. The Fed is the problem. The central banking system is the problem because it wasn't supposed to go on this long. We were supposed to have an event, a war, or something else to explain away why the system is failing. How do they explain it away now? It's becoming very, very difficult. And the move is on right now to get rid of the central banking system. The countries at this point, they're ready to move away from the dollar. And we're already starting to see this happen. Once Russia does, China is going to be right behind them. Other countries are going to be right behind Russia and China. And all of a sudden, countries are going to be moving to a different currency. We know that the African nations right now, they're already stating that there's no reason for us to have dollars in reserve. We deal with China, with the yuan. So why are we using the dollar? Let's bypass the dollar and just use the yuan. All that we're seeing right now is a move to move away from the dollar. The system is coming to an end. The central bank will be coming to an end. We'll be moving to a different currency system. And I do believe the whole entire goal of this is to move away from a private Western central banking system. As we know that Putin, he's taking control over the central bank. And I think the same thing's going to happen here in the United States. Trump, the Patriots, are going to take control of the Federal Reserve. Because once you have control over this, there's no reason this central banking system needs to loan the government currency. The government then, the people, can print their own currency with no interest attached. So we're heading towards a period of time where everything is about to change. These countries are preparing and getting ready to move away from the dollar. This has been planned for quite a while. Now, of course, the plan was to have the central banks take full control over this. The plan has changed. Plans always change. We've seen it before. The central bank, they're losing their grip. Rothschild even admitted it. They're nervous. They're afraid. They don't want this to happen. And again, they're meeting now to figure out how they can take back control. They don't want to lose this control. They don't want to lose what they've worked for all these years. Their plan to take total control of the world. And how do you do that? Well, you make sure that you can control every single country. And you can do this with debt. Plain and simple. It's that easy. Put the countries into debt. You owe all this currency back to the central bank. Now they have to listen and do whatever you want. They don't care on a lower level what laws you pass and things like that. But what happens over time is that the government structure, it becomes corrupt because the central bank is intertwined with feeding these individuals free money, making them very wealthy, making them very dependent on the central bank establishment. And you can control the country by putting them to debt. You can also control the individuals in government by making them wealthy, blackmailing them, and doing many other things, and having the whole system become corrupt. Then you can control everything, and you can make them do whatever you want. This is why Trump and the Patriots, this is why they're going after the central bank. This is why Russia is moving away from the private West central bank reserve currency. Remember, Putin right now controls the central bank in his country. And they're doing this to shut down the central bank. This is the move they're going to make. And we can see how this is starting to play out now. The corporate media is out there. Richard Beauvais of CNBC, one of many Fed apologists in the media sphere, quickly leaped to the Fed's defense, noted that Trump will have the opportunity to fashion the central bank in the image he would like. They're very worried about what Trump is going to do. Ever since Trump came out and spoke out against the Federal Reserve, this was on July 19th, they're very nervous and afraid because, as we can see, he hasn't stopped. He's continually speaking out, and I don't think he's going to stop anytime soon. This is the beginning stages of the transition. And I'm not talking about, the economy breaking down, but the transition away from a private Western central bank system controlled by outside forces, private outside forces. And we're just beginning to see this. And as we move forward, we're going to see a lot more of this, where Trump and the Patriots are continually speaking out against the Fed. So we can see everything is about to change. The system is about to shift in a dramatic way. So get prepared, get ready. Listen, everyone.